Okay, hello YouTube. It's the next day. Just went and picked up a clutch, a whole clutch repair package. It comes with the pressure plate, the friction material. It comes with throwout bearing. It comes with an alignment tool. It comes with all these things. So went and picked all that up. But I still actually haven't removed the clutch. I'm going to remove the clutch now so I can determine if the flywheel is glazed or warped or anything like that. So just as a reminder, the clutch is that thing right there that my fucking camera refuses to focus on. There we go, right there. And the silver part that you see, that right there is where the little bearing when you push push on your clutch pedal, this little bearing is pushed forward into those where the silver scoring is. This little bearing pushes on those teeth and pushes in on those teeth, and then those teeth flex and disengage the clutch. So anyway, I need to remove that hole. That's called the pressure plate. I need to remove that. There's I don't know, I think 6 10mm screws. They have they're 10 millimeters, so you'll need a 12-point socket. Then inside there is the friction material, and then once those two are gone, I should have direct access to the flywheel for inspection. You can still see some fibrous looking material sticking out between the clutch teeth, say like down there around the bottom. That is remainders of the clutch that just shredded. So anyway, I'll go ahead and try to get the pressure plate off now. Okay, YouTube, here is what my new clutch kit looks like, and what you can expect it to come with. Here is the new pressure plate. Nice clean teeth, no indentions. The friction plate on the back here, this right here is actually what makes contact with your friction material, so that is in good condition, beautiful. It should be, it's brand new. Then the friction plate sets on top of that like a brake pad, and so the friction between here and there is important, and so that's why you have this brake pad like material. This is what wears away. This is what burns when you burn your clutch, or what tends to get worn beyond where it can't catch anymore, or gets destroyed when your clutch goes out. So that goes against there. These springs here, according to Dave, the all-knowing, is to stop chattering, because this kind of it's not actually bolted in, so it sets in between the pressure plate and the transmission, and so these springs provide some tension, I guess, against the transmission housing, to keep this thing from like hopping around all the time. I'm not exactly sure how those springs do stop the chattering, but they do apparently. So, and then you have a new pilot bearing. This bearing right here goes into the flywheel. The flywheel is essentially what's on this side, because this part right here goes. This side, that side right there, is operated by your clutch, or by your cylinder pushes in. And pushes these teeth in to move this plate to disengage. This side right here, this side right here actually goes towards the transmission, and you have this little pilot bearing. Anyway, you press it into the flywheel, and so anyway, that's essentially it. And this right here is the bearing that replaces this bearing right here. See, here's the new one. There's the old one. And this right here is the shift fork. This disengages the clutch. And so this splined piece right here is this end right here goes into the flywheel. So this pilot bearing is a new bearing to go around that, but you actually press it into the flywheel, which I'll show you now. So there you can see there's all the parts of a new clutch. I believe that's called the throwout bearing, and this is the pilot bearing. I'm sorry if I get the names wrong. And this right here is actually a tool to help you align all this junk, you know, these splines in here, to keep this plate in line with the splines, on the, well, this drops down into the flywheel, so it helps you get the friction plate and the flywheel lined up properly. So as you can see, this is my old flywheel. It's slightly glazed, which is kind of a discoloring that you'll see happen in metal when it gets too hot. It's cruddy, and to replace the flywheel is relatively cheap. It's anywhere from $50 to say $80, as long as you're not buying it from the dealership. So, you know, I'm going to replace it too while I'm here. No point in not doing that. And you can see there's the old pilot bearing. I'll pop that out. Well, on my new flywheel, I'll replace that. Or I could pop that one out and drop in the new pilot bearing. So, and then here's the old pressure plate. You can see here's that friction disc on the back. It's pretty good, not real groovy or messed up. There's the teeth. You can see where that throwout bearing pushes in, and these silver scoring is where for the friction on the bearing pushes against the teeth. The teeth flex, and then like a fulcrum right here, fulcrum point, it moves this plate inside. You know, I wish I could show you an example of how that moves, but you can get this plate, I guess, to move back up to 1/4 inch, which then, you know, takes friction off the friction plate, and so then your transmission is disengaged from your flywheel. So here's kind of the amazing part, is that, as I showed you before, here is your friction material. You know, this stuff here, cement to wear away. I guess the grooves are to help dissipate heat. So anyway, it's the part around the circumference there, that's the friction material. This stuff in the middle is just plate holding that all into position. You know, it's just about a positioning. So here's a good one. Here's mine. Now, notice the difference. Okay, so you're probably asking, where's all this black shit? Generally, when the clutch wears out, you can still see this black shit still attached to these metal plates, but you'll see that it's worn down to just about where the rivets are. And that means that, you know, this right here is, you know, there's a good, probably an 1/8 inch to 3/16 of a space of this black friction material above that rivet, right? Well, here all you see is the rivet. There is no friction material. Here is the friction material, and I actually have this was stuck to the flywheel, and you can kind of see where at one point where it might have resembled something like that was on here, because that, you know, this pile of lint was in fact once just like this. So so there you have it. So, you know, catastrophic failure. And so anyway, this part I'm all going to replace, but your clutch kit does not come with a new flywheel. And like I said, your new flywheel, if you notice any glazing, it can also, if it becomes too hot, it can warp. I wasn't smoking the clutch long enough, I don't think, to warp this, but it does look just a hair glazed, and it's ugly, and at the price of, you know, this one I think is actually, if I take this replacement in, I can get a new one for $59. So after pulling the transmission and all that type of shit, I'm not going to get cheap now. So I'm going to go spend $59 and grab a brand new flywheel to throw on there. I guess this will have my clutch wear a little faster. I guess it's nicer if you have, according to Dave, to have an older flywheel, because it's, you know, a little smoother. It's, you know, I could also have this surface remachined,